Hi, welcome to NLPR. This is going to be a pioneer approach to film study. I am Jack, your host, and to explain what the NLPR acronym is, it is Nonlinear Pattern Recognition. What NLPR does is that I won't necessarily be giving film reviews as much as I will be dissecting them and giving new evidence to current film theories while growing my own on the table when they catch my director's eye. I will, throughout these video essays, give nonlinear connections of pattern across film and TV, Hollywood and pop culture, and life itself. Now, I won't fully explain it just yet, but I will get around to connecting films like Jaws from 1975 all the way to Final Destination 2 from 2003, or the 2011 movie Drive, starring Ryan Gosling to his performance of similar stature in 2017's Blade Runner 2049, directed by Denis Villeneuve. And then, as the time is right, I want to and will connect ourselves as an audience to a film's overall point, such as John Carpenter's The Thing from 1982, or explain why films like Final Destination are far more important than credit is ever given to them. I've thought for so long and so much about NLPR, and I am really excited for all of this. I am a movie-going veteran and have nearly 300 films in my movie cabinet, which is less than 6 feet away from me as I speak right now. My primary goal with all this is to make people think and look at film differently and talk about life around us in a fashion that is always around us. Even I don't understand it, but I know that I feel it, which is why I'm doing this. There are going to be many things I don't understand, which is why I encourage experts and other professionals to step in and help give insight or correct me. Because, like I said, I don't know everything. I just know how to feel it. So, for the first installment of NLPR, I chose Contagion from 2011. My theory for this is that the MEV1 virus in the film was not caused by bats and pigs like the ending suggests. It was most likely a genetic mutation of herpes into encephalitis.
2 or 3 thousand times a day.
2 or 3 thousand times a day.
So, for the intro of Contagion, we have immediate confirmation of Beth having an affair with John Neal. Beth is played by Gwyneth Paltrow, as you can see right here. Beth is married to Mitch Emhoff, who is played by Matt Damon. And this detail is so quick and subtle that people don't recognize it, and therefore they look at the ending of the film and say, oh, well, this is how it's caused. Like right here, it's bats and pigs, and then it's wiped on a shirt and then passed on to her through her handprints. But I believe, back to this, it's actually caused by the affair she has with John Neal. It seems a bit far-fetched, but with NLPR, I believe with this pioneering, I can show people that there's evidence to back up the herpes into encephalitis theory. All right, so while we're at it, little micro detail time. I believe that the female bartender who handles Beth's credit card at the airport bar, she does not get infected or die because every major character who gets infected or dies, it's all on screen. This woman, we don't see her get infected or die. So I just think that supports a little bit of the theory. Again, I don't think she gets infected. So, with this new scene, Mitch Emhoff is in the hospital after Beth passes away. And this is where the film slips by us with the dialogue of herpes into encephalitis. My theory is saying that, like I said many times already, herpes is evolved into encephalitis. But medically speaking, as far as I know from basic research, is that herpes can turn into encephalitis. It can't just evolve into it. And this is where I call on experts in the medical field and medicine and doctoring to come help me out with this, because I'm not an expert, but I would really like people who know more than me, obviously, in this field, to come help me out and confirm this in some way, because the film ending, like I said prior, it suggests that it was bats and pig droppings to, cause the MEV1 virus. But I'll now let the audio of the clip do the talking.
West Nile. Herpes can cause encephalitis.
She doesn't have herpes.
Now, I can understand that macro detail highlights throughout this video essays and the future ones that I am planning on, they can get a bit excessive or even annoying. But I can assure you, the thing is, with cinema and film and script writing, micro details are crucial to everything, because part of my core ethics as like a early director or someone who wants to work in this kind of field, it's that everything that you see and hear on screen, it's for a reason. Everything that is shown on screen, it's there for a reason. And I believe that that dialogue about herpes being caused by encephalitis is critical, along with the real life science of, hey, this can actually cause this disease. Now here's a little micro detail to throw in there. This is John Neal, this guy. He's the person who Beth had an affair with. That's confirmed at the very beginning. We have to assume he has MEV1 because that's what Beth died from. So now he and his wife are both sick. And now this, I had to edit it out. It is a like a, what do you call it, a surgery video on Beth's head, and then it cuts to the doctors doing surgery on Beth's brain. And I believe this is what causes my theory to be more strengthened of herpes and encephalitis, because in the movie they act like they've never seen this before. And so I'll let the rest of the clip do the talking. All right, I'm glad that he asked that question, because now we're going to get into some more math and science that even I don't understand. I just wanted to throw it in here because not only is it important towards the Contagion film, but it is also actual science. Fomites are a real thing. It's basically, like she is explaining here, and I'll play it again, of it's how many surfaces you touch and how many transmissions it can do per person, if I'm not mistaken. Again, I don't know this stuff. I'm just a guy making a framework for video essays and putting theories into film that I think deserve recognition. So now with fomites out of the way, we get into what's called the R-nought number. This has to do with science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, STEM, basically. I don't understand this stuff that much, which is why I'm doing these video essays, to understand better and hopefully have professionals come help me out to understand what it means. But essentially what it means, is I will play it again in a clip, is that the R-nought number, it applies to how many people can get infected from a virus that someone is carrying, basically like a multiplying effect, if you will, of like, how do you say it? Like it reproduces through a host and then multiplies, and that's how the R-nought number, comes into effect. And I will play the clip in just a second and let y'all watch it. Now, here's a interesting thing I just wanted to throw in before the next part is that this is the scene where they declare that only BSL 4 employees can work on this medical project from here on out. BSL 4, I had to Google this, I'll show you right now. It is biosafety level. There's BSL 1 through 4, as we now know, is the highest level you can have. And then she has to call up on this doctor right here named Ian Sussman to tell him to destroy his samples so that they can't risk anything. I think it's more of a commentary on how politics within medicine get a bit complicated, and they want to essentially like isolate the work on medicine, if that makes sense. But that's just my take on it. Now, this detail here in this scene is huge for later on in the movie, and my theory as well. It shows the first victims of the MEV1 virus. It shows the man hit by the bus, the Russian supermodel, the guy on the bus who is sick, and then obviously Beth, who dies at the very beginning. And then this scene's also an important detail of after he's taken off of like the company roster to work on the virus. Dr. Sussman is in this cafe and he sees these people coughing, and he's just rightfully paranoid about it. So then he goes back to the lab and is able to replicate the virus in like a cell form, whatever, and then basically that's like the next step towards a vaccine or cure, even though cures are a bit arbitrary, I think is the right word. I'll have to have some help on that part. But essentially, what it's saying is that part of viral medicine is to create or replicate the virus in a lab setting so that you can understand it better. And that's exactly what Dr. Sussman does. And then it changes the whole game going forward with Contagion. And then it immediately cuts to Dr. Cheever, played by Lawrence Fishburne, being like, why did Ian Sussman have access to this? And then they find out, oh, well, he ignored the protocols, and then says, oh, yeah, he's going to publish. What does he want? So they believe that there's political reasoning for Dr. Sussman to do this, when in all reality, he was just trying to get the job done faster. It wasn't about politics. It was just about doing the job right. So there's the next scene with Matt Damon's character Mitch Emoff in the hospital or doctor's office or wherever he is. He is learning that he is immune to MEV1, and so he's like, okay, well, why can't you just take like a sample of my blood and make vaccines out of it? And Dr. Mears, Kate Winslet's character, she explains that it's financial, it's very expensive, and somewhat political that they can't just do that. But the good news is that he is immune to it. But the key detail is that he is still carrying it. So just remember that in a few moments. So I wanted to show that clip in its entirety with some edits to it because it's important due to, in my mind somehow, this seems like a warning and steps to take in case of a real pandemic, like, looking at you, COVID-19. Because I remember during that, my family had to wipe down groceries every time a new batch came in, and lots of times the boxes got really soggy from all the wiping, and of course it was safe to eat, but it's like, it got annoying after a while. And I remember there was like a shift I worked at, my job back in that time frame, that like as soon as I came back home, I immediately had to take off all my clothes and wash them and get in the shower. But yeah, I just felt like that was a good clip to put a little anecdote of like personal experience from the pandemic. And this is the scene where we find out that Dr. Mears is sick with MEV1. And I know a lot of people wonder, how did she get sick? Who did she get sick from? And it was this, when she was in the hospital talking to Mitch Emhoff, and he, like she said, he was immune, but he was also curing it because his wife, Beth, who died, and his son, who died from it, um, you know, they had MEV1. And Mitch happened to be curing it, and now Dr. Mears is sick with it. And a very important factor in this scene, when Dr. Mears tells Dr. Cheever that she's sick with MEV1, is that she displays a very common thing people do when they're sick, which is they get scared. Like crying and lip trembling. We all do that, and we shake, and we get terrified. It's like people with kids can probably relate to this when like their kids get dramatic and like, oh, am I gonna die from the flu, whatever. It's like, they're not gonna do that, or that's not gonna happen. It's just that people just naturally get scared when they're sick because their body isn't used to it, no matter how many times we catch the flu or a virus or whatever. And so that's why I think this scene is important as like a human factor, is because all of us have done that at least once when we were sick. And now we start the unfortunate uh, death of Mears in Contagion. So her male coworker comes back, and he gives her a phone from Dr. Cheever to contact him for any needs or requests or anything, because she's sick with MEV1 in this gymnasium without anybody to leave. So it's a very unfortunate and sad scene in the movie, and it's also very important to the whole logistic side of medicine and the film itself. So now we know from that sped up clip that Dr. Cheever wants to get Mears out of that gymnasium and back to him. And right now we're going to learn that Bryan Cranston's character, Lyle, right here, he is explaining that logistics, infrastructure, politics, and finance are going to be all mixed up in one big mess to try to not only contain the virus of MEV1, but they're also trying to contain information and keep panic from ensuing, which in a way is inevitable, which that they're trying to mitigate how that goes out in the end. And so I'll play that clip now to help illustrate it more. And then last thing to add to this is that this scene closely resembles reality, like in the COVID-19 pandemic, because it seems more like a warning of what happens in a high infrastructure when chaos is about to ensue. They want to make sure, all the ducks are in as good as a row as possible before public knowledge is too far gone.
Until everybody knows. My temperature's 101.
Alright, so before I do the first official NLPR move for you guys, I'm going to play this clip first of Aubrey, Dr. Tiva's girlfriend, right here. She talks to her friend over the phone, and she tells her private information about MEV1 and what's happening in the crisis, and I feel like it accurately mirrors real life of people who have access to sensitive information. Sooner or later, they leak it out to people, whether it's by accident or on purpose. All right, this is exciting. This is the first official nonlinear pattern recognition move for you guys. So in this scene, Forsythia is being sold in a pharmacy, right? After Alan Crumwitty basically claims that Forsythia cured him of MEV1. And there's a little micro detail in here that I connected to another film. And so I'll play the clip first and then stop on where the detail is and then go from there. So the macro detail here is when the guy's going through the pharmacy window, one of his shoes is completely off somewhere, and it's a micro detail in human behavior during a crisis setting, because this is how far the human brain will go to survive sometimes, and it's just a very important detail in the film as well as life itself, and it also connects to this upcoming clip from War of the Worlds with Tom Cruise.
Are you okay?
So this nonlinear connection between two films is that this is how far the human brain will go to survive in a crisis setting. On the left, it's a less severe thing, but it's a guy going through the pharmacy window so fast that he loses his shoe and doesn't care. And then on the right, it's an alien invasion apocalypse, and this guy is doing whatever he can to get into the car, which in this case, he was ripping apart the windshield glass with his bare hands, which obviously will hurt anybody, but his mind is so preoccupied on the adrenaline and getting in the car that he doesn't care about getting hurt. And so I just think these are two non-linear connections across cinema that are really important to display micro details in human behavior and survival. So this scene also has a prime example of micro detail in human behavior, where Mitch and his daughter Jory are going through the grocery store like anyone else would do in this crisis, and as he's running the corner, he sees this woman infected with MEV1, and although he's immune, he could still carry it by accident and give it to his daughter Jory. As they're exiting the store, we see him put hand sanitizer into her open hands very frantically and fast, and I feel that this is an accurate mirror of real life, where all the time we wash our hands and put hand sanitizer on like crazy because we don't want to get sick, obviously. So here's a scene with important context that's a bit of a slow burn. So Alan Crumwitty here, played by Jude Law, he claims to be sick with MEV1, and he's taking this stuff called Forsythia to cure or fix MEV1. And he has a whole following of people who listen to him, and that makes it a lot more dangerous because this could be misleading or false or anything bad for people in the long run. So, like I said, I don't really understand what this means, but I know that it's critical because it sounds like it's related to the R-nought number or the reproductive rate of the virus. And then what happens next, like script wise, and I'll show it now. All right, I took time to transcribe this exactly how it is on the screen. It says the CDC lies. They collaborate with pharmaceutical companies. There is a cure to effectively treat MEV1. Forsythia is a natural and safe therapy. Do not let the government mislead you in order to gain a profit. Join the movement and spread the word of hope. More info at truthserumnow.com. So an important character micro detail is this woman that Alan knows from the beginning of the film. I'll show it right here. This clip of him in her office talking to her, and then we find out right off the bat that she is pregnant, unfortunately. And then you think, well, how did you get sick with MEV1? This is how. And then unfortunately it does lead to her death, which is confirmed by this grieving post with her picture right in front of it, and then it shows Alan quietly mourning her death. So this next clip is a little bit of political and social commentary with some conspiracy theory, just dashed into it. So I'll let the clip speak for itself, and then I'll dive into it. This seems like it's pointing to how people want to believe in a simple solution, yet it just wouldn't work. It's like asking, can we really make dinosaurs come back just by using their DNA? And that itself is like saying, let's build the Empire State Building out of, paper mache or equivalent. And it's also possible reference to fluoride and water conspiracy theories, just how Dr. Teaver just mentioned it, of like the CDC wants to put it in the water supply to see if they can just cure everybody in one fell swoop. It just wouldn't work that way. And I'm sure um, medical professionals and experts can come in and weigh on that because it's just, in my mind, it's very arrogant to assume that. So this is going to be a very important and pivotal scene. Dr. Cheever is at the CDC headquarters, or where it is, and they are going to be debating with Alan Crumley live on TV. With Forsythia, I'm not really sure what it is, but I think it's besides the point. I think the point of this is that, like, the film Contagion is taking Forsythia and saying, "Oh, this is the cure to this," and this guy, Alan Crumwitty, is being successful at profiting off of telling people how it works to cure MEV1. Again, it's all kind of like social commentary on how people push misinformation and still are successful or even, profit from it. But again, it's just what I'm taking away from this as interpretation, if that makes sense. So as we can see here, Cheever and Quimity are getting into a heated debate on live TV, and Quimity is about to school Cheever, if you will. He says how Cheever told only certain people to get out of Chicago, and only three suspects are to blame for that leak. We have Roger the janitor, Aubrey, and the woman she told the information to. We can technically rule out Cheever because he didn't say anything to anybody besides Aubrey, and Roger only eavesdropped on him during that conversation. So it still makes that channel of discussion airtight until Roger says something. And here's the rest of that debate. So now we come to the sad revelation that because of this leak that wasn't really Cheever's fault, he's still going to be fired eventually and replaced. But because they can't find anyone to replace him due to the MEV1 virus pandemic, they're just going to take him out of the cameras. Now the ambiguity of all this is that we don't know who made the leak. The point is that it was leaked. So now we see that Crumwitty is in custody just before he gets to jail or imprisonment. Basically, they are saying that, he never had MEV1, that Forsythia is a lie, and that he made almost $5 million profit from that lie. And now they're saying, oh, we're going to, lock you up with all your money and maybe even your computer and that's still with you. And then this happens. Now, while there's not much to really say about this scene in terms of like the theory I have or the film itself, but I felt like it was good social commentary ahead of its time, where like food stamps are taken away and people like are experiencing food insecurity. I just felt like this somehow was like predicting it, and it's not exactly what has happened recently, but I just feel as if this was just a bit of ahead of its time, if you catch my drift. And now we get to when Dr. Cheever gives Roger's son Anthony the dosage of real vaccine for MEV1. This softly implies that Roger is the one who leaked the information that got Dr. Cheever in trouble, but it's still ambiguous because nothing's ever confirmed about who made the leak or what. But all we know is that to, I guess, make up for Roger knowing what's happening, Dr. Cheever gave his son Anthony here the real vaccine to, I guess, compensate for what happened. And then we watch as Dr. Cheever puts on the wristband that Anthony's supposed to put on because he has the vaccine, but he has to wear it to make his colleagues tricked. And then he is seen giving it to his girlfriend Aubrey because, it's her turn to get her vaccine. And she knows that he gave his away, but this is still her dosage. Now, I don't know why this detail stands out, but on the cryo thing, they type in 4265. If any experts in the field of medicine know what this means, if it does mean anything, please let me know, because somehow that stands out. All right, we're now to the conclusion of this video essay for Contagion, as well as the film itself. So this is when Rory, who is Mitch's daughter, she's having a makeshift prom night. And so Mitch is upstairs, and he's rummaging through his closet, and suddenly finds his late wife, Beth's camera she took with her to Hong Kong, and is looking through the photos, and he's reminiscing, his time with her, and what could have possibly happened during that trip. And this is important that eventually the grief does catch up to Mitch, because as Rory is downstairs, she plays U2's All I Want Is You for her makeshift prom night, and the grief catches up to Mitch due to both the memory of his late wife Beth and the music playing, both combined. And the important thing to know with this is that it takes a moment for him to start grieving and crying, which is a clear sign of, human dissociation. And while it not be too important, I do think it is a critical narrative thing that the peace sign is visible here, and it's to possibly signify that he's accepted Beth's death. Like, it's a way of saying, I've come to peace with you now being gone. And in this angle, it was invisible. But now that he's, grieving, this is not exactly how it really works with, therapy and grieving. But in the film, it's showing, with this peace sign, I have moved on and accepted what has happened. So now we're at the beginning of the film all over again to compare what the film suggests is the cause to MEV1 versus my proposed theory of herpes and twin encephalitis. So first we see this guy who was hit by the bus, obviously, before the whole film really kicks in. His name is Lee Fei, and the thing is that we do see Beth eventually come in contact with him, but it's very brief. And then shortly after, we see the Russian model, I believe, or just, supermodel. She comes up, this one. And her death is actually a bit faster than Beth's in the film, but she does die the same way of on the floor, having a seizure, and foam with the mouth. We see it here shortly. And she also comes into contact with Beth. So as you see, the housekeeper finds her feet looking very dark, and her eyes dilated, really huge or whatever. And then here's Beth coming home from her trip, and she comes into the house and hugs her stepson Clark. That's how Clark gets MEV1 and then ultimately passes away. And this guy who dies on the train, that's recorded and seen by Crumwitty, he's on the plane. Now, we never see him come into contact with Beth. As far as I'm concerned, I looked, I can't find it. If someone else can find evidence of him coming into contact, I would really appreciate that. But yeah, and then so Lee Fay comes back in, and then he obviously gets hit by the car. But now we're gonna look at some very micro details and see what holds weight with what, and then go from there. So let's do this.
Mhov gave it to the Ukrainian. All right, folks, I know that was a lot to take in. Imagine how it was to edit all of that. But I believe that that scene particularly has a lot of misdirection in it. Like, the guy she took a picture with, we never see him infected or die. The model, Urana, I think her name is, we do see her make direct contact with Beth and see her die the same way that Beth dies, which is, a seizure and foam at the mouth. We never see Beth put her drink down, but we do see Lee Fay pick up a glass. We don't know that it's her glass, but we know that he picked up one. So all that we know is that Beth and Arena died the same exact way. Okay, now here's where the micro details are absolutely crucial. So we see the AIM company that Beth worked for or owned. Um, it shakes up a tree full of bats, right? And this bat flies into the enclosure, right? But look at the bat right here. It looks a bit too artificial to be real, but the pigs are actually, real looking. So what does this mean in the end? I think it means that the pigs, while they could have caused something, the bats, it's unrealistic. And it's just, for some reason, this looks way too artificial to be real. But the pigs look real, right? And then we see this, and it just feels a lot like misdirection. And then he shakes her hands, and then, of course, it's day one of the infection. So, one of the only ways my theory of herpes and enteroencephalitis holds up is right here again. It says day 2, obviously, but still, it says that Beth had an affair with a man named John Neal. And while we did just see, the chef shake her hands unwashed, who's to not say that, she didn't wash her hands after that? It's like she could have, but the film deliberately chose not to show that in the end. And so the way that my theory holds water of herpes and encephalitis is that we don't know that she didn't wash her hands. And like, for all we know, this is of like where we see day 2 on the screen right here, that it actually was the wrong timeline. It was all misdirection to make us think, oh, we solved the case of MEV1 being caught by a bat and pig droppings. It's just, in my mind, something's not adding up, because maybe the timeline is off deliberately, or there's some kind of really advanced misdirection. And I don't really have any other way to show it, but it's just, like I said, in real science and medicine, herpes can cause encephalitis, which is swelling of the brain, which, right here, that is probably what caused the doctors to stop and say, oh, we have something new here. Because, why else would they look at the brain where encephalitis would be at and then stop? Because they're old enough to be like, yeah, we've seen this many times before, but something clearly was off. It was brand new to them, and they were not ready for it.